Can everyone please stand? Boy, I love all the energy in the room. Welcome. Welcome to the meeting of Rotary Club of Seattle number 4, named for being the 4th oldest club in the world and also one of the largest. I'm Beth Knox, your club president. As we convene today, we respectfully acknowledge that we do so on unceded Coast Salish land, specifically the ancestral land of the Duwamish, Suquamish, Stillaguamish, and Muckleshoot tribes. This acknowledgement does not take the place of authentic relationships with Indigenous communities, but serves as a first step in honoring the land we are on. Now, here at Seattle 4 Rotary, we enjoy music and words of inspiration to kick off our meeting. Raymond Tymas Jones will lead us today in song and will be accompanied by Freeman Fong. And following the music, I invite Nick Anderson to share our inspiration for the day.
Hello. Thought it was a bit too quiet. We're going to sing on a clear day. It's not raining, so let's take advantage of it. On a clear day, rise and look around you, and you'll see who you are. On a clear day, how it will astound you that the glow outshines every star. You'll feel part of every mountain, sea, and shore. You can hear from far and near the world you'll never heard before. And on a clear day, on a clear day, you can see forever and evermore. You'll feel part of every mountain, sea, and shore. You can hear from far and near the world you'll never heard before. And on a clear day, on a clear day, you can see forever and ever and ever and
Wow. Man, please have a seat. Man, on a day of music to have a performance like that and like try to sing along. I didn't try. I couldn't keep up. So I'm the chair of our inspiration committee, which means that I'm accountable to you to ensure that every week we have someone here on this stage providing inspiration. And forgive the Hair Club for Men reference, but not only am I the chair, but I'm also a member, not of the Hair Club. Got it. Okay, we're moving on. So, and when I chose today, you know what I'm saying. So when I chose today, the 11th of January, I didn't know that Quinton Morris was going to be our speaker. And when I discovered that maybe a couple of weeks ago, I was so delighted. And I'm thinking about the man whom I will call friend. So I'm thinking about my friend Quinton and how that is for me. We've only met once, and it was like 7 years ago. But I walk in here and we hug like we've been friends, well, forever. And I think about the meeting that we had, that one meeting, and how his story and his vision was such an inspiration for me. How can I carry that into today and provide inspiration for you? And it really is around the notion of music. And so I want to invite you to go to a place, and I know I'll lose you, but I want to invite you to go to a place where you think of that song. You see, everyone has a song or a jingle. You've got a song that you work out to. You've got a song that reminds you of a loved one lost. You've got a song that reminds you of your first dance, your first kiss, your first love. And I think, what do we believe about music? And I think of a song, not my song, but a song that poses the question, do you believe in God above? The Bible tells you so. Do you believe that rock and roll can save a mortal soul? And then I think about the other lyric in that song that speaks about the day the music died. And I think as a consumer, as a receiver of the gift of music, how important music is, how important the soundtrack to my life is, and what it would be like. I just can't even imagine. And then I think to myself, well, what did that be like for the person who is the carrier of that gift, the giver of the gift of music? If they could never share, that gift lived within them, but they couldn't share it with the rest of the world. And so as I think about that meeting with Dr. Quinton Morris in the Starbucks across the street from Seattle University 7 years ago, and thinking about how it was inspirational to me to hear his story and then his vision, such that there will never be a day that the music dies. Thank you for that gift.
Thank you, Nick. And also thank you to Raymond and Freeman for setting the stage for our meeting today. Our greeters today were John Hojaboom and Fedva Dickman. Thank you also to Mary Goldie for serving as our Zoom meeting host, and to our meeting reporter today, Pete Delaunay. Wanted to share that recently we have lost two longtime and beloved members of Rotary Club of Seattle. George Duff was president of Seattle Rotary 1992 to 1993. He served as the CEO of Seattle Chamber for nearly 3 decades and was a leader in stewardship and advocacy. He helped create the plan for the Seattle Convention Center and Freeway Park. He supported the addition of Seattle-Tacoma International's airport's 3rd runway and encouraged our business community to visit other cities and countries to gain inspiration and foster relationships to move our region forward. Seattle Rotarian Donald Bennett was a businessman and active community member who lost his right leg in a boating accident in 1972. He went on to teach amputee skiing at the ski school at Snoqualmie Pass and became the first amputee in the world to summit Mount Rainier on crutches in his acclaimed Hop to the Top effort. He then invited his ski buddies to play soccer on Mercer Island, and now amputee soccer is played in 50 countries under the World Amputee Football Federation. What amazing legacies. Please join me in a moment of silence in remembrance of our fellow Rotarians. Now, you may recall another individual who joined us here at Seattle Rotary as a past speaker, Brent Beardahl, the CEO of WaFd Bank. He was here in September to speak to us. And I wanted to share, many of you may have already heard this, but Brent was in a plane crash on January 3rd as the small aircraft left Provo, Utah for the Rose Bowl. It crashed just after takeoff, and unfortunately, the pilot did not survive, but the 3 passengers, including Brent, did. Now, Brent had a number of injuries and will have a long recovery, but he will be okay. He has recently been moved into a recovery room and will start physical therapy. The sign that he's improving is that he finally got his wife to get him a new cell phone after much whining on his part. And his new laptop is on its way. So he's in good spirits and plans to return to work virtually as time and healing permits. Now I'd like to introduce several guests who have joined us today. We have Adam Grupp, guest of Virginia McKenzie. Adam, can you welcome? Glad to have you. Please stand. We have Diana Carey, guest of Jim Duncan. Diana, could you stand? Bill Hogan, guest of Doug Seto. Will you stand, Bill? And I'd like to recognize the entire table of Classical King FM. We are so glad to have you all here with us today. And our corporate members of the club, we have Dano Rystrom with Issaquah Rotary. So can we all just welcome our guests here? All right, it's that time of year when we find ways to dream about boating under the sunshine and blue skies. Here to introduce our short program speaker is Seattle 4 Rotarian, excuse me, Pete Delaunay.
Thank you, everyone. First, I want to shout out to Stephen Morris, who's the Commodore of the Seattle Rotary Mariners, and Doug Seto, who's treasurer. And I don't think Linda Lowry is here tonight, or this afternoon, but we've got a good group there. It's a pleasure for me to introduce our short program today. As you probably know, or you may know, Seattle has 200 miles of shoreline and thousands of waterways statewide. Boating in Washington State is almost a $7 billion business. The NMTA has been involved in this since 1947. The boat show is coming on February 3rd. We appreciate having our former Rotarian and president and CEO of the Northwest Marine Trade Association, George Harris, with us today. And George is a lifelong boater, sailor, angler. Welcome, George Harris.
Thank you, Pete. President Beth, thank you to be here at Seattle 4. It's an honor to be on this stage. That's not lost on me by any means. So thank you. So by the end of my 8 minutes, hopefully you'll say, wow, that Seattle Boat Show is important and a big deal. Secondly, you'll say, wow, boating looks like fun. I want to be like Pete or the Rotary Mariners, and I just might want to get into boating or back into boating. And then number 3, wow, events are really important to the community, important to the region. And I think this could be a case study for all events, whether that's a Comic-Con event at the Convention Center or a Seafair, or maybe even the World Cup. So I just compared the Seattle Boat Show to the World Cup. It's the World Cup of boating. So a great friend of mine whose name is important in this room, dear friend, is Michael Campbell, the senior nomad now. But Michael and I met in 1999 when he was president of the NMTA, and we worked together for a dozen years, and we're great friends. I call him a friend, a mentor. Anyway, he said to me, probably our first or second Seattle Boat Show together, he says, you know what, George? Boating means something different to everybody. And that just really stuck with me, 20 some years ago, as you look around at the variety of boats, at the marinas or in Eastern Washington and whatnot. So that's always something we're trying to capture with our advertising and promotion. So this slide here, these folks here, what is important to them, what boating means to them is they're headed to a Husky game. They're taking their boat to a Husky game, or maybe they're going to do the Lake Union Drift. We have the light northerlies in the summertime. You go up to Gasworks Park, turn off the boat, and you drift to the south end of the lake. That's called the Lake Union Drift. And example, you don't have to have the engine of your boat on to enjoy it. Or maybe some of those marinas right there, maybe they're just enjoying some cocktails in their slip right there. So these fellas here, I see them in Eastern Washington, or maybe Lake Sammamish, wakeboarding, wake surfing. As we try and draw younger people into boating, this demographic is really important to us. So we'll have high performance boats like that at the show. So the show opens on February 3rd. We're going to have about 700 boats on display at 2 locations, indoor at Lumen Field Event Center and down at Bell Harbor Marina. So think about all the logistics to get 700 boats into about 500,000 square feet. I wish we could just line them up like a parade through the Soto and march them like ants into the building. But we do a lot of staging and things like that. But it's quite the operation I'm proud of. This is more like the boating I like to do. These folks are headed west through Deception Pass. The fog is lifting. They're headed to the San Juan Islands, maybe the Gulf Islands, or even further than that. And there are folks all over the country that wish they could do this kind of boating. There's folks in Indianapolis, Detroit, you name it right now, that wish they could be doing boating like this on Puget Sound in the Inside Passage. And then finally, this is another type of boating I really like is recreational fishing. A friend of mine, Andrew here, he's up in BC right now, waiting for a Chinook salmon to tug on his line. And if you survey boaters tell us that 60 to 70% of boaters use their boat for fishing all or some of the time. So recreational fishing is very, very important. Recreational fishing in Washington State can be crabbing, it can be shrimping, it can be salmon or other species like lingcod and halibut. So boating means something different to everybody. Boating also means business in Washington State. Pete mentioned it's a $6.9 billion industry with about 24,000 jobs. We run health trust for our association members with Regents and Kaiser Permanente. And it's fun to watch the employment numbers change with our businesses. Recreational boating the last 3 years, like all types of outdoor recreation, has done well. Right now, there's 245,000 registered boats in Washington State. And we put about 6,500 new boats into the fleet each year. And there's about 6,500 boats that retire out of the fleet each year. And Washington State is 13th for population. And what do you know? We're number 13 for boats sold in the United States. So we're right on for population. So Seattle Boat Show, probably the stat I use more often than any other stat is we sell tickets in all 50 states. Hard to believe that many people from all over North America want to come to the Seattle Boat Show. I love Google Analytics. This time of year, I put a third screen on my desk just so I can watch all those little bubbles pop up that somebody from Raleigh or somebody from Albany or somebody from Nashville is thinking about coming to the Seattle Boat Show. We did an economic impact study by BST Associates after our 2020 show. We had a little over 8,000 room nights because of the Seattle Boat Show. So Beth, I'm not sure how much that compares to some other events like Seafair or whatnot, but I'm really proud of 8,000 room nights. These folks come to town, they spend money. They're in for 2, 3, 4 nights. Over $7 million spent on transportation, shopping, dining, recreation, and then a lot of taxes for the state and the region. So almost $5 million in taxes generated. And then it's interesting, some folks that aren't used to boating or the culture of boat shows, they picture maybe like a dog show, you know, boats doing tricks, you know, boats in a parade or something like that, you know, people up in the bleachers. And it's a selling event. People come to buy. More than half the people in 2020, we had 42,000 people. More than half the folks are shopping for accessories, you know, life jackets, electronics, things like that. But boats are sold at the show. Our members report 30 to 60% of their annual boat sales happen at the Seattle Boat Show. So in coming out of the 2020 show, we estimate almost $250 million of sales at the Seattle Boat Show. So hopefully I made the case that Seattle Boat Show is a big deal. It's fun and interesting. And if you are interested in coming to the show, all Seattle 4 Rotarians can check in with the Rotary Mariners. We've got some complimentary tickets. And then hopefully you recognize that events are important to the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. That was awesome. And yeah, that's a significant impact from hotel room nights and all the other components. And I also appreciate you fueling our boating daydreams. Okay, now on to our main program, after which we will have time for Q&A, of course. Here at the Westin, we'll have roving microphone handler Lillian Sherman to spot questions, while Ken Grant will monitor the Zoom chat for questions. But before he takes questions, our Prince of Programs is here to introduce our main speaker, Ken.
Thought you weren't going to bring a violin. So George, that's how important that, oh, what is that photo? There is someone in this room, a particular president, who is going to pick up their new boat in 1 month after this year's show. Our latest boat owner, President Beth Knox. So unfortunately, Nick stole most of my opening introduction to my good friend, Quinton. He spoke here 6.5 years ago, and from that very moment on, I felt the same way, that I had made a good friend. When I was a kid, when I was a teenager, maybe some of you know this, I was a violin student. I was one of those violin students. I was going to end up where he was. And I quit about 2 years after because I was like bored. I was like, I can see the track. I can, at 19, I'd already done probably a third of the good repertoire. And Quinton that day spoke about how you could be a musician and an entrepreneur. It was such a powerful conversation 35 years too late. He got off stage. I wasn't going to swear, maybe I shouldn't swear. And I called him something. It was so meaningful. It stuck with me to this day. It's still so impactful to me that when I got this job, I had to have him come back. It's a different speech today. So I'm not sure if you're going to be able to figure this out, but one of the interesting things about Quinton is that he also loves to collect red toy cars. If that's not oddly random and oddly specific, I don't know what is. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Quinton Morris.
Thank you very much. I thought I would start before my talk by playing. I do not want to make Ken cry because he harassed me into doing this. So I'll start with the piece first and then we'll talk.
Thank you. I don't think I have to tell you what that piece was, do I? That was Misty. I love jazz. I'm a classical player, but I really do love jazz. And I love to play it in my spare time. So thank you. It's a real honor and privilege to be here today. I love coming to downtown Rotary 4. I have many friends in this club, and it's so great to be able to reconnect with everyone. I've been here before. 10 years ago, I came, and after I had done a TED Talk, and that's where I met Ken and, of course, many others here at this club, and it's been really great to come back and be welcomed each time that I'm here. Rotary and myself as an individual, we share a lot in common. We both believe in the greater good, which is to advance service and leadership for the good of people. That's something that I have really tried to do in my life. It's an activity that I have really enjoyed in the various things that I have been able to do as a performer, as an educator, as an entrepreneur, filmmaker, and citizen, really, of the city. I'm from here. I grew up in Renton, so I'm a proud native. Yes, thank you. And so it's an honor to be able to serve my community in the capacity of now an adult who has seen the city go through so many changes. I believe and subscribe to your values here at Rotary, and I do that through serving my community and also creating art. And believe it or not, while you might think art or music are just recreational activities, I must inform you as a professor that music is one of the 7 liberal arts. It's technically not a performing art. It's definitely not a visual art. It's a liberal art. And so at the core of everything we do, from learning about math and science and literature and history, music is embedded in all of that. And so that is something that I have taken with me in my life, is using music as a way to connect with the community and connect especially with young people. Because I grew up here in Renton, I had, unfortunately, a time in my life as a high schooler where I did not have access to a violin teacher. And I grew up in a single parent household. My mother had myself and my brother, who is 11 years younger than I am. And my mom could not afford violin lessons. And so each week I took 3 metro buses from the Renton Highlands all the way to Bothell for my weekly violin lesson from the age 15 all the way up to 18. My violin teacher at that time was a professor at UW and played in the Seattle Symphony. He was the 2nd chair in the 1st violin section. And I had to pay $80 every week for my violin lesson, which in 1992 was a lot of money. So my mom said, well, if you want to take violin lessons, you got to get a job. So I worked at McClendon Hardware. I sold tickets through Ticketmaster Northwest twice, worked at Burger King and also at a thrift store. And each time that I quit my job, I quit because I wanted more money. So I did that all 4 years of high school because there was no one in my neighborhood who taught violin at a high level. After I would graduate from high school, I'd go on, and I first majored in pre-law. I grew up in the 90s seeing LA Law with Blair Underwood, who I was so inspired by. I loved him as an actor, or as an attorney and an actor, and thought, I want to be just like him on LA Law. I want to be an attorney. So I went to Xavier University, and when I arrived at Xavier University, I discovered that my violin teacher was a Black woman who played in the Louisiana Philharmonic. I had never met a Black professional violinist. And so what she would say to me is, you know, if you could practice a little bit more, you could go pro. You should think about becoming a professional musician. I'm like, no, I'm going to become an attorney. And long story short, after my third year at Xavier, I decided that music was really what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I left Xavier at the end of my junior year and started completely over at North Carolina School of the Arts, would work my way up through my doctorate and arrive at Seattle University in 2007. I've had a really fantastic career as a performer. I've performed all over the world. And on one of my trips coming back from China, after I had performed, I started thinking about what could I do to give back to my community. I've learned so much on the road. I've learned a lot standing up in front of people at New York City at Carnegie Hall, but I want to be able to give back to a community who still is lacking resources, in the sense that in South King County, there is still no violin teacher who teaches at a really high level where students can go and take lessons. And so, is this my clicker? Great. So with that being said, I started Key to Change. In Key to Change, our mission is to inspire underserved youth through world-class music instruction and to support their development as self-aware leaders. So unlike myself, most of the students in our program can't go and work at Burger King or McClendon Hardware. One, because they're too young. They're in 6th grade all the way up through, of course, their senior year of high school. But a lot of them don't have that drive. So I thought, what if we created a program where students from the south end of Seattle, South King County, can come and take lessons at a really high level, but at an affordable price. So our mission is to inspire underserved youth through world-class music instruction and to support their development as self-aware leaders. And we do this through not only offering violin lessons, but also through providing access where students can have exposure to a plethora of professional musicians who not only live here in this area, but teach at the world's greatest music schools and universities, such as the Juilliard School and the University of Texas. And we also provide lessons for students of color, where they can come in and see themselves represented in the staff, in our board, and also the student population. And what we do is set them up and place them into a program where they will become lifelong learners and they will achieve in whatever they decide they want to do. So with me creating this program, I had to, of course, think about who exactly is our audience. I founded this program in April of 2017, and here's who we wanted to target. Middle and high school students with an interest in extracurricular activities. Students in South King County who have limited access to music education. We know this, that arts programs and music programs in schools, public schools specifically, get cut first more than any other programs. But we also know that students who play an instrument or participate in any sort of musical activity at their school have higher percentages in math and science, in any of the STEM or in any of the literature activities. So we wanted to target those students. Students of color and underrepresented youth. It's important for students who love playing classical music to have an opportunity to engage with students who look like them and also who don't look like them. We also targeted schools that prioritize arts opportunities for their student body, educators who want to create opportunities for their students, and parents and guardians who are looking for after-school activities. Our outreach to the diverse communities across South King County, we wanted to make sure that it's not just a matter of us telling a teacher about this. We had to really go and dig deep if we wanted students to be not only engaged in our program, but stay and grow up in our program. And so what we did was we reached out to schools that had orchestra programs, and we did visits and master classes. We also did individual meetings with teachers, superintendents, school board officials. We also went into schools where we went at their curriculum nights, orchestra concerts, and other school activities, information in their local newspaper, press materials, social media marketing, which is really big for kids these days, open houses that we provided for prospective students in various neighborhoods across South King County, and we created partnerships. And not only the partnerships with these school districts were for students, but we also created opportunities where teachers had an opportunity to work directly with us. So if teachers felt like they were struggling on classroom management or their own curriculum, they could come to us and seek advice. So our target audiences, once we identified that, then of course we had our key concerns, and we broke this down into students, influencers, and communities. For students, which is the most obviously important, we wanted to make sure that we created a program where they felt engaged and they were having fun. We all know that if a kid is not having fun, they're not doing it. So if a kid is not enjoying their time in a music program, they're not going to practice their instrument. We also wanted to demonstrate to students how to develop long-term healthy relationships with teachers. That is really important because a lot of times kids, they may not have a real appreciation for a teacher. And so we wanted to show them what that looks like for them and create on-hand attention where they knew that we knew who they were, what they liked, what they disliked, etc. Creating those relationships and those bonds with students are extremely important. And what we found in South King County is a lot of teachers or schools, because they are so overpopulated, they just don't have the time to devote to those students. And finally, creating a safe space. As a person of color, playing classical music can feel very lonely at times. And so we wanted to identify what does it look like for students to come in and feel and be expressive, their full authentic selves while learning about classical music. So we've addressed the student needs. We wanted to make sure that the program was affordable. Students can take lessons as low as $12.50. We've wanted to create an environment where students can learn and feel appreciated. We have a very thorough evaluation process where we examine how we're doing as teachers and how we can teach our students so that they can become stronger advocates in their own respective communities. and we fostered long-term relationships with students and their families, and it's paying off in really big ways. So here's the big question. What if students in South King County could learn in an environment where standards are set high without compromise by a leading teacher of color? What if? Here it is. Key to Change provides a proven platform for supporting students with outstanding results. After the first 5 years of service, our enrollment has grown an average of 50%. And since the pandemic, 233%. And since we've returned to in-person lessons, we've retained 90% of our students. This winter trimester, we're serving over 300 students. We provide lots of different options for students. Group lessons are the most popular because they make friends with other students from other schools. And for a 6th, 7th, 8th, or high school student, that's really cool. If you're from Renton and you meet somebody that you might have a crush on who goes to Auburn High School, or you know how they do. But that creates a real community for them. It also allows people in group lessons to really understand what it means to work together as a team and create and build something. The other thing is private lessons. We offer those as well. And we also this year have started 2 new programs, a combo where students can take both group lessons with their friends and they can have individualized instruction with us. Finally, our Young Artist Academy program is a really growing program right now because it's in partnership with the Seattle Symphony, who is one of our community partners, where students work with myself and the concertmaster of Seattle Symphony, Noah Geller, the first chair, where students really get that one-on-one time with myself and my staff. So with all that we've done, I've told you everything that we do, but now I'm gonna really be honest with you and tell you how we have been so successful. Here it is. We're authentic and we're real. Now, you hear that word, authentic, be real, right? But do people really mean it? No. The silence said it all. But I'm gonna tell you how real we are. Our approach with students, parents, and community members, we approach them from a place of care and not from a savior mentality. We are not trying to save anybody. How many programs have you supported, have you heard of, where they're like, we need to save the children? Wasn't that a thing of the 80s? Save the children, right? We're not saving anyone. We are empowering people. These are people. They're young people who are going to grow up and remember, because they all have brains, they all have minds. Even if they've tuned you out, they're still kind of listening to you, right? But they're going to grow up one day. So we're not saving them, we're empowering them. We're patient with earning the trust of people who are from marginalized and underrepresented communities. That means they may not communicate the way we communicate, and we have to be patient with them. We have to meet people where they are. We have to admit when we don't know something and apologize for our own ignorance. Everyone in here has screwed up and online. Everyone has screwed up, and your pride has gotten in the way where you have not apologized. Shame on all of us. In order for us to create real, authentic relationships, we have to admit when we're wrong, because we're not always going to get it right. Period. That's what the kids say, by the way. And this is for white people. Be an ally and speak up for the rights of students of color, even if that means standing alone. You got to do it. That's how you build real trust, real authenticity. Is when someone says something that is demoralizing, that is racist, that is classist, that is sexist, and I'm really speaking to the men. Because men, we're in those spaces. Well, y'all are more in the spaces than I am because I'm Black. But you understand what I'm saying. We have to speak up when we see signs of oppression. When you do that, you build trust, authenticity, and community. That's how we've been able to do this. We have been able to build the trust of the community, and they're not only just coming back, they're staying. So students that I have had in 6th grade, that started in 6th grade, they're now in 11th grade and 12th grade. They have been with us for so long, and they trust us, and their families show up week after week because we do these things and we're consistent. We also diversify and we include. We diversify our repertoire and explain to students why it's important for them to learn more than just the classics. It's fine to learn about Mozart and Beethoven, great, but they also need to learn about Florence Price, the first Black woman to have a piece, performed by a major symphony orchestra. They need to learn about Joseph White, Cuban composer who lived during the 19th century, who studied at the Paris Conservatory and was, killing it in Paris. Synopsis. So the point is, they need to see other people who look like them and don't look like them. And that exists in the classical music repertoire. The other thing is seeking out professionals of color to conduct our master classes, our guest lectures. Students need to see people who are Asian, who are Black, who are from the Latinx community. They need to see other types of people who are professionals. And you know what? We pay them. We compensate them appropriately. That is so important. It's one thing to bring a person of color in, but it's another thing to ask them to do it for free, and we don't do that. And that's really important. The last thing that I want to talk to you about is this show, Unmute the Voices. Unmute the Voices is a program that is through Classical King. It is a radio program that is specifically music that is written and performed by people of color. And this is a program where it is coupled with storytelling and really wonderful music. And this program is on every third Saturday of the month. Since the inception of classical music, it was written for a very specific demographic. Classical King is changing that. They're changing that by playing music that are by people of color and also women composers. So the students from Key to Change, when they turn on Classical King, they hear orchestras and performers playing music that was written or performed by people who look just like them. This program exists to accelerate the development of equity in classical music. Now, I know you hear a lot of, well, you know, people of color or classical music, why should I care? Well, for one is, I've been at Seattle University since 2007. I'm a tenured professor. There is only one other tenured Black violin professor in the country. I am number 2. And I'm young-ish. Whole point is we need more people of color, not only in classical music, but also in academia. But we need programs like Unmute the Voices on King FM and also Key to Change that can show and demonstrate to the community what is possible for them. So here's what I want you to do. Everyone here has a phone. I want you to pull out your phone, program, and listen to my voice on next Saturday, the 21st. Mark your calendars. 3 o'clock. Screenshot it, put it in the calendar. And here's what I want you to do. How many people here want to advance equity and inclusion among all people in Seattle? Go like this. Okay, here's what I want you to do. Seriously, screenshot this, put it in your calendar, and set an alarm, because next week, Jordan Babineau is coming. He's great, by the way. He's coming. You're going to go on with your life and forget. So you need to set an alarm. Set an alarm for 3 o'clock. And I want you to listen. And you don't need to sit around the radio and like, listen, you can be doing other things. You can be on your phone, walking a dog, whatever you want. But what I really want you to do, if you listen to the program, is write me. feedback@king.org. You'll hear me say it on the radio. And I want you to tell me what you learned. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. And if you're a baby boomer, you're really going to like this program because the music is wild and crazy. You'll like it, I promise. Mark your calendar and then write to me and tell me what you thought about the program. The way we provide more access for students of color and underserved youth, not just in Seattle area, but everywhere, is by supporting the programs and supporting the platforms that are made available for all of us. That's how the ball moves forward. And it's got to start here. Otherwise, if we don't support it, it dies. And then kids don't even know what's possible. So we as adults, the collective, have to demonstrate and be honest, real and authentic to the community what this looks like. Write me and let me know what you think. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Morris. That was amazing, especially your performance. I'm sorry, but we don't have time for questions today, but wow, that is incredibly uplifting and inspiring. So we appreciate that. Now, Dr. Morris, in recognition of the generosity of your time today, our club has contributed to Harvest Against Hunger, a nonprofit agency providing healthy meal components to food banks, and we've given 600 servings in your name. Thank you very much. Now, our club greatly benefits from the sponsorship of several members, as you know, and I'd like to just recognize our gold sponsors, Liz Powell with Remax on Market and longtime Rotary supporter, Bob Alexander. All right, so it has been a while, as you might know, since our Prince of Programs has been up here with us, and he's clearly trying to make up for lost stage time. So back again, Ken Grant is going to share our speakers ahead for the next few weeks.
Wow, I went on vacation. George, thank you. Quinton, as my kids would say, you slay. Okay, so there's no 17-year-olds in the room, but that's the right use of the word. Coming up, Quinton gave this away too. Coming up next week, those slides is our good friend Jordan Babineau and a better friend. Look at her taking a picture of herself. Cookies with Tiffany. She's going to talk about how you succeed through how you build a company through COVID. I think this will be most interesting. She may also bring a little something, if you know what I mean. The week after that is a very dear friend of mine. How many people know Andrea? If you don't know Andrea, this is the meeting to be at. I know it's on Zoom. She is insanely kick-ass. You want to be inspired as a guy or a gal, it doesn't matter. She's the one to do it. All right, and is there one more? Oh, and then the week after that, we've got our annual, everybody loves this program, the Mentors program from the UW Foster School of Business. Thank you so much. Thank you both. You're on.
All right, thank you. Okay, just a few reminders for you that we have posted the position for Club Director of Seattle Rotary. It was emailed out last week. And if you haven't shared it with your network, I please ask that you do so as soon as you can get back to your computer. The closing date for applications is Wednesday, January 25th. And we're counting on all of you to be our ambassadors to help recruit the best candidate to serve our club. Now, who here has made your contribution to Seattle Rotary Foundation or the Rotary Foundation International? Nicely done. All right, online, I'm looking at you. I hope that everyone will make your contribution as soon as possible. We're counting on you because the amount is less important than that you are making the contribution. It provides our club matching grants so that we can continue to do great work. And I just wanted to give one shout out here. Where's Zelma? Zelma right here. Zelma has worked at the West End for over 30 years. Zelma, is that right? And next week will be Zelma's last week with us. So I just want to say thank you. I understand your birthday's tomorrow. That's awesome. But thank you so much for all the work that you have done for us. We appreciate it. We're going to miss you. Okay, in our final minute, I'm going to do what I do every week. I'll send you off with a recap of your Seattle sports community. Last Sunday, the Seahawks beat the Rams 19-16 in overtime, and then had to wait for the Detroit Lions to upset the Packers in Green Bay to qualify for the playoffs as the last wild card team. But they did it. Their reward is a trip to San Francisco to play the 49ers this Saturday at 1:30. And now the Niners beat the Hawks. I want you to remember this. The Niners beat the Hawks twice this year and are on a 10-game win streak. But they're also playing with a rookie quarterback appearing in his first postseason game. So the Hawks were picked, as another reminder, to win less than 5 games this year. Their season is already a success because they still hold the 5th pick in the 1st and 2nd rounds of the draft due to their trade with the Broncos. So go Hawks. Now, 2023 may be the year of the Kraken. Unbeaten since the calendar flipped, they won their 6th straight game last night. They lead the league in goals scored on the road and are back to 3rd place in the Pacific Division standings. They play 2 more on the road at Boston and then Chicago on Saturday before returning back home for a January 16th game against Tampa Bay. Seahawks wide receiver DK Metcalf said, "Don't got anything to prove to anybody. Just prove yourself right and everything else will fall into place." We are adjourned.